Hello and welcome to #Rugby Chat, brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for your predictions and opinion. Yes, here we are. We are live in Ashwin's living room. And he said bedroom there for action. I don't know why. There we go.
Not that kind of show.
Dearing me. So yes, welcome to #Rugby Chat. The curtain comes down on the season. So we're going to be, that's obviously for us down here in the Southern Hemisphere. You guys up in Europe, well, hey, you've got lots more rugby to come, and we will be going through the whole season. We're not, over Christmas and stuff, we will be keep going every week. So don't worry, this isn't the curtain coming down on this show. This show will be continuing. So don't worry about all that kind of stuff. What are we going to talk about this evening? Well, obviously, Rugby World Cup qualification. We'll also be talking about France versus Fiji, because let's be honest, that was the game. Talk about Ireland and coaching. And then also we will be talking about the World Rugby Awards. And then a bit of end season reports, Australia, South Africa and Argentina. And sorry, folks, for those of you that were watching, but we are live again. So Ashwin will just put a comment up onto the chat there saying that there is another show. We've had connection issues. So let's kick off with the old Rugby World Cup qualification repechage. So, Steve, did you see that?
Didn't see it, but I've actually read a little bit of the feedback that's out there. Obviously, a very good victory for Canada, and I think it was once again really important for their development. From a New Zealand piece, it was great to see a couple of guys who actually play their rugby over here. Tyler Ardron and also Evan Olmsted, part of the Canadian team. They are two very, very good forwards. So from our point of view, or from a New Zealand perspective, it's great to see those guys. But I guess if you're a Canadian supporter, you'd be delighted with that result.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a wet game, and Hong Kong did come out and put some pressure on them, because there was some interesting qualification rules in this one, in the fact that the first piece was number of points, but the first decider was the points difference in the game with the opposition that you're equal on points with. So if Hong Kong,
So, wait, let's back the truck up here early. Beep, one more time for us slow people.
For you slow people. So what that meant was, if two teams finished on the same number of points in the table,
yes,
then the score result between those two teams was the next deciding factor.
Right.
So if it was a draw,
yes,
then they'd go down to other ones, which we have no idea what they were, because that was becoming far too technical. But
drop kicks backwards from the 22.
Maybe, yeah, that could be it. But, so basically, if Hong Kong had beaten Canada by a try bonus point and stopped Canada from getting a losing bonus point or a try bonus point, they would have both finished on 10 points. And because Hong Kong beats Canada, they would have gone through.
Right.
So that was the narrow kind of way that it could have panned out, but it didn't in the end. With Canada, I say, holding off the early onslaught and then basically taking their first opportunity and managing the game from then on in very well, to be fair.
No, absolutely. No, I mean, like, obviously, just before we came on here, we just had a real brief discussion. The one of the things that we sort of commented on was that the level of rugby played by the two teams was actually pretty good for the conditions that they were playing in. The condition. Not just the rain. I mean, the rain was one element, but the field looked pretty cut up, especially down the, as we looked at it on the screen, the left-hand side. So the end that Hong Kong was playing to in the first half was, I'm guessing that the stormwater flow went from the right-hand side of the screen to the left-hand side of the screen.
And you've also got to remember that Kenya, Germany had played on the same pitch beforehand.
Wow.
Which is why, and that game finished 4-63. So 6-43. So 6 points to Kenya, 43 to Germany, with the try bonus point. Obviously, when you got 43 points, so maybe all the action was down one end, which could have played some part in the damage to the pitch.
Before we go into the Canada game, Canada-Hong Kong game too much, I mean, it's actually not a bad result for Germany, still carrying on that momentum that they've had through that tournament. A 43-6 was it?
6-43. Yeah, 43-6.
It's a pretty good result for Germany. I think that's something that they can still build on if they can find a backer.
If they can find three backers. So,
well, or a backer to replace their philanthropist guy that gives them all the money.
Yep, I like you see, you're as good at that as you are at pronouncing Pacific Island names.
So English forgets me.
So unfortunately, like, all the German staff now are basically out of a job, and we will, and unfortunately, their chances of getting 3 people who will equal the philanthropic funding that they get. See, I could say that word.
You're English.
But hey, if you can say it in Tamil, then you're all good.
I taught you how to say mangari.
Okay. So basically, where are we now? Yeah, it's basically Germany. All those staff are now basically out of work and heading off trying to find new jobs. So even if they do find the funding, they'll be building themselves back up from scratch. So Germany, unfortunately, that's probably the end of it. If Canada hadn't qualified for this, they were going to lose their funding for their 15s side. So Canada would have disappeared as a 15s entity if this had happened, probably, or they would have dropped right down and they wouldn't have had the funding anymore, and it would all have gone into their 7s. So Canada had to win this, to be honest with you. Hong Kong, on the other hand, with Global Rapid Rugby being based out of Hong Kong administratively, at the very least, have got a bright future ahead of them. And so, whilst it would have been a nice story for them to qualify, it wasn't essential for their rugby long term.
I do want to discuss the game a little bit, so but no, that's cool. But I'm just sort of thinking, sort of what you just said. Surely that's a sign for Canada to sort of cuddle up to Twiggy.
Cuddle up to Twiggy. Well, to be fair to Canada, they have got the Toronto Arrows will be entering the Major League Rugby next year, which will obviously help the players, which will be good for their strength and conditioning and all that kind of stuff. Looking forward. So I think now we've got over this hurdle, things are looking up for Canada. But this was a hurdle they had to get over.
And we have seen the MLR provide benefits for USA Rugby.
Oh, the MLR, absolutely, yes, it has done. We can, because they now play deep into the game, whereas previously they didn't. I know we've had comments previously on the chat about the Major League Rugby. The standard isn't up to the standard of the European professional leagues or Super Rugby or whatever. No, it's not. It's a long way off. It's not even. It's not even Mitre 10 Cup level. But the fact is, their players have proper conditioning now, rather than amateur conditioning, which means that they can play deep. Sure, the skill levels will come up over time.
Look, and I think it's something I mentioned last week. Is the fact is that at the end of the day, it's when we've played rugby, it's the fact is that if you're playing rugby on a regular basis and a consistent level, even if that level is lower, you're still building rugby now.
And even for Hong Kong to come up against players of the quality of Ardron and Olmsted, who are very, very good footballers, and just for our international audience, Evan Olmsted played for the Auckland Mitre 10 Cup team this year, and he was absolutely fantastic, and he really should have got a super rugby contract. Could be bad news for Auckland though, moving forward, with Canada making the World Cup next year, which probably means that Olmsted may not be available.
Well, hopefully he's available until the last couple of rounds anyway.
I just also noticed Hugh Biden's in the front row for Canada. Also spent a bit of time down at Manawatu a couple of seasons back as well. So a bit of a traveller there. So these players, I think for a lot of them, if we can get players, for example, from Hong Kong maybe coming over here and playing a little bit of Mitre 10 Cup as well, especially your guys in your pivotal positions, halfback, first fives.
Oh, see, look, this is where we've said that there's untapped potential in the NPC competition. Now, we go on about this, like, who wants to watch NPC rugby? There's no money in it. No sponsors want to come to it. If you build it, they will come. And it's the fact is that, thanks, Kevin. But, look, there's both sides of it, right? There's the sponsorship. If you've got a quality product, the sponsors will gravitate towards it. If you've got a competition where the players can develop it, then the players will gravitate towards it, right?
Yeah. Yep. I see Jack Darby just made a comment that Canada were lucky to get through the All Blacks. I'll tell you what, that would be for a lot of those Canadian players, that'd be their mountain, wouldn't it? Well,
actually, but also I would actually say that the All Blacks South Africa pool is the weakest pool in the competition. So the top two teams are are top notch. Number 1 and number 5 in the world. They're very good. Next, their third class team. Now, if we look at the third class teams in the other competition, in the other pools, you've got Japan, Georgia, and Argentina. Now, would you rather have one of those or Italy? So Italy is probably the weakest out of those 4 teams, or at least on par with Georgia. It's beneath Japan and Argentina, let's be honest, especially Japan at home. We then go to Namibia, who is the 4th ranked team in there, who is the qualifier out of Africa, and Namibia probably the weakest team in this entire competition. So Canada are in with an outside shout of beating. They'll beat Namibia, they should do, and then the question is if they can beat Italy, then they could get automatic qualification, or they would get automatic qualification for next year, for the next one. So actually, if I were them, this is actually the perfect pool for Canada, because they have
there's opportunity there.
There's opportunity there. They're not going to beat any of the top 1-2 teams in any of the pools. So it's irrelevant who those 2 are. It's the other 2 teams that matter, and that's the weakest pool for them.
So areas to build on for Canada, like obviously out of that game against Hong Kong, for my mind, if that was a dry track, that would have been a much closer game. I think Hong Kong would have been severely in that game. That you can see that obviously Hong Kong game plan is around more rapid movement of the ball. They've got the backs to be able to play that type of game. The conditions really sort of hamstrung Hong Kong, I felt. In saying that, you know, Canada could have played a different game plan. They did have the forward power there, and they might have changed it up to hold it more in there so that the backs didn't get it from Hong Kong. So, but you know, I did think that had that been a dry track, probably would have been a closer match.
You got to remember that Hong Kong sevens, and the sevens is the big thing there. So a lot of their, it's where most of the international exposure has been in recent years because of the Hong Kong sevens. They get an automatic entry into that competition. So that's the biggest sort of, or highest profile international exposure they get. So yeah, it's unsurprising that they've got the backs to make it.
I was sort of thinking, are we going to talk about Australia now, or should we address Christian's Fiji versus Australia pool dilemma now?
Well, before we get on to the Fiji versus Australia, let's talk France-Fiji. Oh. Now, did you guys see this game?
Yeah. Well, I saw the second half.
Yes. So for those of you who follow me on Twitter at DrivingMaul, by the way, at halftime I tweeted out saying, "Guys, watch this. This could be history," and it was. And then I did a very quick organising with Mary, who had been watching the game from the beginning, to do a post-match reaction. So go check out that video where we go into depth about the whole game. Did you watch the whole thing?
I did. Listen, my first impressions in terms of the scoreline, I actually think the score flattered the French. I really do. I actually thought Fiji scored they created a lot of opportunities. I think there was an opportunity, but that was called back because I think Huge, the winger, was taken out. But Fiji were just creating so many opportunities, and unfortunately for France, they were just leaving enough loose ball lying around. And I actually thought their game plan was pretty limited. They looked like they wanted to bash
the French.
The French looked like they wanted to bash the heck out of Fiji, but whenever they turned the ball over, they found themselves chasing. So
just a couple of reminders first. The score was 14-21 for those as we've not mentioned that yet.
You don't know.
So there was one score in it at the end. And also the other kind of key point of this is that Fiji had 2 tries disallowed by the TMO.
I didn't see the first one. I only saw the second one that Steve just alluded to.
Well, I thought Semi Radraja's try was very impressive because I think he went through about three or four players from about 15 metres out and scored a try which probably had no right to score, but he reached out an arm and scored, and it was superb.
Let's face it, Semi Radradra, he's only had one season in rugby so far.
Yeah.
One season. Yeah. He's from Parramatta, in the other oval ball code. Right. And he's only had one season. He's class. And he has more time in rugby. That guy's going to be really. So he's going to be Rupini.
And you also had Joe Tuisova on the wing, who's a really solid unit as well, and Gonova, who plays in English in the Gallagher Premiership.
Yeah.
Not too sure which club he actually played.
Falcons.
Newcastle Falcons as well. And they were just at their best. Usually when you go through a team performance, if you can pick out several guys who played well. I thought the blindside flanker, Wanaki Baruto, was also really good. He's played a bit of rugby out here in New Zealand, having played for
North?
North Harbour. Not for
North Harbour.
For North Harbour as well. And I think in the main, the Fijian pack, apart from their line out, I think they scrummed relatively well.
Scrum was good. Second half, what I saw, a little bit.
Line out was a little bit scratchy at times, but in the main.
Just going back to the scrum, I saw their scrum under pressure, and then they had a crucial scrum. They put in 5 metres out from their own line, and they obviously had words, and that scrum went nowhere, right? In terms of the French trying to push them out. The scrum before that, they'd overpowered the Fijians, and 5 metres out, and they barred up.
But I did think, for all the good things that Fiji did in attack, I thought the most impressive thing was between probably in the last, shall I say, 8 minutes or so, 8 to 10 minutes, when basically France had all that field position, that attacking position, had plenty of opportunities, and you could just see the Fijians. They were just wanting to make tackles.
So I have a little insight into this bit.
Yes.
So my Fijian obviously is top notch. So I heard, or actually no, I've been told that you could hear over the mic in Fijian one of the players going, "They're just human" prior to a scrum. Yeah. So clearly,
Wow.
There was
that's interesting, isn't it? That's not what we would expect. Like if the All Blacks on there, but that's not what you'd expect. It's just like you'd expect not these words necessarily, but smash them. Yeah. Don't let them get out.
I will stitch them all together afterwards for the show.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, and sorry for that. For those of you watching live, you obviously had to switch over to the new stream. I'll stitch these all together afterwards. So for those of you who are listening to the recording or watching the recording, then sorry, that's why it might be a bit cutting a bit bitty at times as we do as we switch between them.
Hang on. Sorry, you carry on.
So well, we were talking about
we were discussing the defence of the Fijians, which was just absolute. And usually when we think Fiji, we think attack, and how they can just throw the ball around and pretty much hurt you from if you allow them to play. But I think the other side we saw here, and the coaches John McKee, there was a lot of talk about before this game if he was going to pretty much be on his way. But one thing I had noticed with this Fijian team, they've actually improved on their tour.
On their tour?
Yeah.
So it's game time, isn't it? It's interesting. Comes about yeah, go Paul.
I was going to say game time as much as just training together.
Yeah. But it's just like what we just talked with, with the MLR and, this is it's game time, training together, getting to know each other, because a lot of these teams don't get that opportunity.
Which is why, anything else you want to talk about this game?
Oh, got to mention the end of the game, right? Okay. Got to mention the end of the game. Because it's like, Ben Volavola understand what's going on, and his trainer runs the tee on. And it's like, all they have to do is kick the ball out and I've won the game. And it's just like, and Ben Vola, you can see him saying it. It's just like, we might hit the post if I kick this. And it's just like, and the ref's going, you brought the tee on, so now you've got to take the conversion. I actually understood it was it's the captain's call, not the fact that the tee goes onto the field.
Well, yes, but the tee shouldn't go on the field unless the captain calls it. So anyway, so what happened was so Fiji got themselves up into around about the 22 mark of the round.
No, they were on the try line.
On the try line, sorry, and there was a penalty awarded to Fiji. Time was up, and Volavola's like, can I just tap it and kick it out? And the referee goes, no, because.
He said yes.
Yes.
He said yes, and then they turn around and it's like, oh, no, you can't because the tee's on the field.
Yeah, oh, my word.
Yeah, Volavola wasn't particularly happy. To be fair, Volavola does need a bit more composure at times in front of his own try line, here in a few hours at the back. But yeah, he then slotted the kick. And so it was actually in some ways closer than 14-21. As a kick at the death opened up the gap.
As the commentator said, all he had to do was don't even aim at the post, just smash it halfway between the goal line and the post, and you don't have to worry about the post getting in the way.
You need a bit. I think if you I'm not sure if you're allowed to deliberately kind of miss.
I don't know. This is what Steve said. Steve keeps commenting about with what I remember, but it's just like, it's interesting. So I can take you back to an Auckland game where Brian Williams was taking a shot at goal, and he took a shot at goal across the face of the goal into the corner, and the player came along and scored the try. So that was a play. Because the penalty shot at goal.
Yep.
And they kicked across. Didn't kick at goal. Kicked to the corner.
The kick wouldn't have missed another 6 sets of goal. Seriously.
So I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, would I know what the rule is there, actually?
Listen, because I know on restarts you're not allowed to deliberately kick it dead.
Are you not?
So because then if you have a restart with time up.
Time up. Yeah, well, that's what we've always said, right? You've got to restart, just kick it out. Then it's a line out or a scrum at halfway, so game's over. So, that would make sense.
So now they've changed the rule now, so if you deliberately kick it dead, but they have to make the decision as to whether it's an accidental or a deliberate one. So
you're going to slip over when you're kicking the ball.
So I think we've got to touch on the French as well. I know a couple of comments.
Yep.
That this is not a great French team, and I just wonder if there's something within their culture at the minute. You know, I kind of look at Matthew Bastareaud, the midfielder. God, he looks more like a prop.
He's 120 kilos, apparently, they said.
With great respect, and yet they've got some brilliant outside backs, and I just wonder with Bastareaud in the midfield if he's part of the problem.
I don't know. I actually think, like, going back to the his fun that he had on the streets of Wellington, I actually think that he's a much better player than that. He's actually a good player, and it's just a case of, can a centre second five be 120 kilos? I was impressed by his play on the weekend, actually. No? But then, technically speaking, you get the game more than I do.
Yeah, I just think that, I think the French, I think they played it too tight. I think they needed to go a little bit wider to move that big Fijian pack around, because they had some very, 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 very big men.
Yeah, but
I mean, let's typically you say the way to beat a Pacific Islands side is to basically scrum and maul them to death. Yeah. And
yes,
which is what I think Georgia did to Tonga at the weekend. Probably, I didn't see that one.
They love a scrum.
They do love a scrum. So there is that side of it. So maybe that was part of it that they got. They just overdid it in that kind of sense. Sorry, just a correction for us it was they are just human on that side. We are Fijians. So that puts a slightly different.
That's fantastic. Look, just touching on the French. You can't help but think, it's like the round ball code for England, right? And the fact is that there's so many foreign players playing in their premiership competition. Is it a good thing for their round ball code?
Okay.
Fiji is the same sort of thing. There's so many, and the fact is the ownership model.
Okay, they've got 14 teams. They can afford to have the foreign players, and there's still space for the home players. I think the issue is that that historically, and I think this has kind of stopped a little bit in this last year, but during the Six Nations, we have rest weeks. Every other side apart from Italy maintains control of their international players during those rest weeks. Every other country apart from France. In France, they go back and play a club game in between internationals. In the June window, the top 14 is still playing and has finals. And so teams in the final miss that first game, or players in that final miss that first game of the international window. So this lack of access of players, similar to the Pacific Islands in some ways, is I think is more the problem than the fact that they've got so many foreign players. They don't have mid-season training camps like the All Blacks do, and also like England do, and Ireland do as well. So they just I think it's access of players more so than number of foreigners.
So is do you think that that France could the administration could ever get control back to have more control over the schedule, their playing schedule, and the etc. You can't see it happening, could you? I mean, like,
well,
yeah. Well, wait. Breaking news.
And you're a club running country.
Yeah.
well, okay. I think that Augustin Pichot's is lining up for a international versus European club showdown. The whole idea around, so he's come up with this new idea of having this 12-a-side or 12-side international competition every year outside the Rugby World Cup. And if you look at that and the number of games it involves, that means if you're going to have 12 games plus playoffs, plus quarterfinal and final, you need 14 weekends. That's fine for New Zealand, who play 14 times a year. That's not fine for all the Northern Hemisphere teams who play 12 times a year. So he's talking about adding in extra international weekends, essentially, which would have to be, according to what we've heard, after that November window is when it would naturally, as it's supposed to be an annual competition within a year. You have your finals towards the end because you don't know who the finalists are going to be halfway through the year. So he is talking about adding extra international games during the European season. This is a deliberate attempt by him to have this showdown between international rugby and European club rugby, and why there is, whilst everyone in the Sydney meeting when the World Rugby got together said, "Oh, what a nice idea," they've gone away and looked at it, and all the European nations have gone, "What?" And there's suddenly a large amount of pushback because they realise that Pichot is trying to go to war here. And he's decided that whilst he's in power, he's going to have a go.
But the European nations have the voting rights, the numbers.
Oh, we have, but yeah. But you say, can you ever see? I can't ever see the French Union on their own being able to. But I say, I've got a funny feeling there's a bit of there's a war coming up in the next couple of years. That and the question is going to be how much support can Pichot get?
Pichot's going out. Let's make rugby great again.
Oh, dearie me.
That's great already. We know it.
Because to my mind, the last couple of years, we've had some pretty poor international teams around. England kind of dive bombed. South Africa, awful for the past 2 years until this year. And I was kind of starting to think that this international rugby was getting a bit kind of lopsided. And then we go into this window. England beat South Africa by a single score. South Africa by a point. South Africa beat France by 3.
Yeah.
England beat. Australia lost to Wales by 3 points. Australia lost to England by. No, that was a big score.
Yeah, that was a big score.
But there were definitely a handful.
England lose to All Blacks by a
single point.
Right.
So there were about 5 or 6 games that were within a score.
Yep.
I thought this was one of the most competitive windows we've seen for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like, if you looked at, especially the Autumn Internationals in isolation, you'd definitely say that's a very competitive landscape that's going on at the moment.
The
extreme close up.
Yep. You like the setup? Thank you very much. This is probably a one-off at the moment.
So I've got an idea, but it's probably not gonna. Damn it!
Oh, we're back. Sorry. Okay. Hello, we're back. So yes, someone said I like the setup. I was going to say, this is a one-off. But if you'd like to have this every single week, then you can do by becoming a Patreon and basically raising enough money for me to live next to Ashwin. So, so go to patreon.com/DrivingMaul and.
That's annoying, eh? It's going so well.
Yep.
Other than our technical problems.
We're having technical problems, but we are enjoying sitting next to each other. So yes. So next time I will bring my 50-meter Ethernet cable that I have at home.
We'll see if that makes a difference. Well, the other thing I was thinking, not in rugby, but we can always try and hook it up to the iPhone because just use a 4G connection.
We could do.
Anyway,
there we go.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Yes, we've talked about global war.
Yeah.
For those of you on this news show that haven't seen the last one, go back and look at the last. On YouTube, I will stitch them all together after the show, and also for the podcast as well. So Ireland, breaking news there that Mr. Smith, Joe Smith, is going to resign from his coaching role after a World Cup, but not just that, but resign from coaching entirely.
Look, I think when you look at some of the press conferences in and around the All Blacks game, you knew he wasn't going to be carrying on. There was comments that he made, the way that he made them, you knew he wasn't carrying on. I suppose the surprise is the fact that he's going to basically, leave coaching altogether. As old Razor said on the news tonight here in New Zealand, is the fact that he's 54, 56, 50 something.
That's me washed up.
Yeah. yeah. Should we start digging the hole now?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, it's just like, he could have 2 years out. Look, obviously it's the family issues that he's got, that he wants to spend time with the family. He can have 2 years out, and he's got plenty of time to come back.
And one of his children has an illness of...
Yeah, so I was reading today, his son's had a brain tumour, or at the age of 4, had a brain tumour, which is... I assume has been removed because I saw pictures of his son and he looks quite a bit older than 4. But there's residual issues out of that, epilepsy, etc.
Yeah. So, and he's involved with that particular charity.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that spending time with the family and just supporting that family, and we understand that.
Then there's the other, then there's maybe completely the other side of it where he's trying to ease his followers down nice and lightly. Without that. I mean, so how would you feel if I'm heading back to New Zealand?
We're jumping into the coaching, the All Black coaching model.
I think there is there is some potential here that he might not come back to New Zealand. One of the things that they've said about being in the UK is that they have been close to some very good medical facilities for his son. So there is possibility that actually he doesn't return to New Zealand. We don't know what those things are. And as someone said in there, they support him for his family reasons and for positioning himself in a better role. We just support him for his family reasons. Here's a guy who has, let's be honest, been at the top of his game, which means, and if you're at the top of your game in pretty much anything, you manage to earn yourself a nice amount of cash. So he is in the privileged and fantastic position to be able to take a couple of years out, or even retire full time and just do some consultants work, or just do some after speaking, i.e. work part time and still have enough to live off. So why push yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you got that sort of thing.
Oh, look,
I'm also thinking, when's the next British Lions tour?
Ooh.
Oh, isn't? Hang on, so Gatlin's doing the South Africa tour, right?
No,
he's not. I thought he was.
Hasn't been decided yet.
Wow.
Now, prior to if we're down this rabbit hole, so Eddie Jones's contract runs until the next Lions tour,
right?
So the idea when he was going so well,
that's the exact when he was going gangbusters,
he changed his contract so that he would basically spend 2 years handing over the England job, and then be ready to just walk into the Lions job. That now
he could go and win the World Cup. Now he would still, I believe, he could go win the World Cup. He'll still not be a Lions coach now.
Ooh, to South Africa, reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. There's issues with his coaching style, obviously, to my mind.
There are, but there are issues that appear after a year. The Lions doesn't take a year.
Yeah, but okay, so one of the key things that we know, and obviously you're wearing a Lions shirt there, the Lions have an issue, and this is their only issue, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're bringing quality players together from 4 nations, you're going to have a fantastic team. The issue that they have is bringing those 4 nations together. Now, this guy has issues with a single nation after a year. And I'm just sort of thinking of the mechanisms that he's got to have in place, got to bring 4 nations together, who, in general, don't like each other too much.
Yeah,
Well, let's wait. No, 3 of them don't like the other one.
something that does concern me is also his relationship with the press as well. He's almost got it in his head that they've got it out for him. Well,
They have had recently.
but it kind of, as we all know, in Britain, when you're talking Fleet Street, it goes with the territory.
Absolutely. It's just clickbait was invented by Fleet Street.
Yeah, I think there's a way of handling it. There's a way of handling it. I mean, so you look at someone like Stuart Lancaster. When they got knocked out of the World Cup. I mean, so that was a big thing for him to deal with, and you almost think there's no coming back. Well, the great thing is he has come back, and in Spain, it's well. Ireland,
in retrospect, looking at how well Farrell has gone as defence coach for Ireland, and Lancaster has gone as whatever it is his title is at Leinster. England really should not have got rid of that coaching setup. Now, whether that coaching setup could work together as a group is a different ballgame, but it had the constituent parts to do well. Again, just whether they could work together. So we'll see. I mean, because other people that could be in the frame for that role, obviously Farrell is one of those, because he is now going to be the head coach of Ireland. Yep. So he'll only be a year into it when he has to start thinking about the Lions. So I don't think he'll get that.
No. And he's got to earn his stripes as a head coach.
Yep. So Gregor Townsend would then be the only coach that had been around for a long time, because Gatland is heading back to these shores, i.e. New Zealand, for a 6-month sabbatical before he takes up another role, whatever that might be.
With some Super Rugby franchise.
Is his idea, yes. Which is very difficult to see which Super Rugby franchise that would be, because the Blues looks tied up with as they've just changed their head coach. So that one's sorted. You've got Plumtree has just taken over the Hurricanes, so you'd expect him to be, well, actually he could be 3 years into it, so he might then head overseas, who knows.
But it depends, so he's coming into his first year as head coach.
Is this his first? Sorry. This is the first year as head coach. Sorry. So yes, the first year's head coach is well. So yes, so this 2019 will be the first year head coach for the Blues and for the Hurricanes. We'll have Cooper on his second year. Mm-hmm. Razor on his third year.
Yep.
And down in the Highlanders, I think it's probably their second year down there.
Second year down in the Highlanders, I believe. Yeah, second year. It's Aaron Major and Mark Emmett off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there'll be the second year coming in, because obviously they replaced Tony Brown and Jamie Joseph from the year before. Well,
Joseph, then Brown for 1 year before. Yeah. So you've got basically pretty much, apart from Razor, you've got new coaches
everywhere.
Mm. So it's a bit difficult to see where he's going to fit in.
And you'd have to say that, how many teams did we get into the finals? Was it 4 in the finals last year? Yep. So, Blues aside with Leon McDonald now coming in, they've been having success, right? Yep. You make it to the playoffs, you're having success. Mm. So, it'd be hard to sort of say, they're going to come in and get rid of a coach that might have had one bad year because they've all been getting into the finals.
So unless Razor heads off and becomes an All Blacks
coach, and then there's a vacancy there.
A vacancy there. But, Gatland being a Waikato boy, will you be welcome down in
That's a hard one with the red and black country down that way. But the other thing is that if you look at their production line system that they have down there, the coaches come through the Canterbury NPC system, right? And then they move into Crusader.
Yeah, well, there's another interesting little side issue. I know Rob Penny has just turned down a coaching stint at Scarlets. So that I found really interesting. So is that an indication that's a return to New Zealand? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Because we do have a failing Crusaders. Sorry.
We're up again.
So, and sorry to we just ended the last one, so me having a bit of a dig at the Crusaders coach. I did shake his hand after the final and tell him that he had a good season, even though he lost. So, that was purely said in jest. They had a very good season down there. Well, not very, but they had a very good season down there. So that's the kind of my Ireland bit.
Right.
Oh dear. So yes. So sorry about all the technical issues. For those of you who are listening on the podcast and the recording, watching back, that's why it's jumping a little bit, because we had a few technical issues. World Rugby Awards. I see I can even get it out this time. Helps me have a few Tesco's. Men's Player of the Year, Johnny Sexton. All comfortable with that?
No.
No? Oh.
Not at all.
No?
He's to me, there's somebody that executes the basics very well. But as the Player of the Year, that's a stretch. You watch that All Blacks Island game, for example. He doesn't cut them open. I don't know. To me, he's not cutting them open. He's not doing anything sensational. That's what I'm looking for in a Player of the Year. You look at a Malcolm Marx, now apart from his line-out issues that he has, he's a dynamic player that is exciting to watch, that does exciting things on the field, whether it's getting those turnovers, whether it's, being the extra back that's running the ball, or doing something.
I suppose what the adjudicators have pretty much looked at with regards to Sexton. If you look at, I think he's probably got the World Player of the Year on the back of his team.
Yes.
On his team's record, and they probably look at he's driven. He's been the pivot that's driven the team around. Although did he start the first test against Australia?
No, that's the only game they lost.
That's the only, yeah. No, that's sort of that probably helps us. Ironically, that kind of helps his chances. I mean to say, I've really got no qualms. I mean to say, the likes of Malcolm Marx. I hear what you're saying. Probably there is a little bit of inconsistency in around his.
Oh look,
he's not the full package. Is what I'm saying.
No, he's not a full package. And I suppose the reason why I mentioned Malcolm Marx, because I don't want to make it sound too biased by mentioning an All Black. That's all.
I think if you look at the other contenders, was Brody
and Rico.
I think Brody's probably having that injury.
No, Brody wasn't meant. No, it's
Bowden Barrett. Beg your pardon.
Bowden, sorry.
Bowden Barrett. Yeah, I suppose a little bit of self-doubt came back. They probably look at that game. To be honest, the only questionable game was really that South Africa game, where you could argue, if he kicked a little bit better.
He's not been given the space, and so he's not been as flash going forwards with ball in hand.
Yep.
Defensively, he's been very good.
Yep.
But he's not in the space. So he's not actually.
We're talking Bowden here.
Yeah, Bowden. Yeah. So Bowden's not had had that explosiveness as he's had his moments, but not to the same degree the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Rico. I find it difficult to get to a winger, to be honest with you.
I don't disagree with you, actually. No, I think at the end of the day, I mean, wingers, they can get a one-on-one or two-on-one, and they do something, but they're on the end of the line.
I don't think he was as vintage as he was last year, the year before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
But just the fact is that, giving somebody who does the basics really well to me, that's the thing. But, hey, look, at the end of the day, awards are awards. Psh, they don't mean anything really.
I've got no argument. I mean, to say, it's one of those things.
Yep.
I was confident. I mean, we also got the guy who is the British and Irish Lions pivot. He does do something well that coaches like. Hence, and he does run a very complex attacking and makes them tick. Women's Player of the Year, Jessie Tremoulier from France. Congratulations. No idea, basically, but well done.
I think she's the halfback.
I think, look, at the end of the day, that French side, it's tipped up the Black Ferns. They had three or four players from the team nominated for the awards, so it was no surprise that a French player got it. But
and also Grand Slam champions as well.
Yep. And so, look, at the end of the day, it's a player from a very good team.
Yeah, and plus the world champion Black Ferns, there was probably nobody that really. I know you always got Sandra Coxhead. She's always up. She's always up there in terms of consistency, but once again, probably not at her best.
I think, and this is something I've alluded to previously on our shows around the Black Ferns, is that I sort of get disappointed at the fact that they'll put a second string Black Ferns side out. The Wallaby, then they played the Wallaroos at Eden Park. They rested Portia Woodman. How many games are the Black Ferns playing? I mean, I know she was part of the Seventh Circuit as well. I understand that, but it wasn't just her. I've just obviously used her. She's your marketing player, and you've not even put her on the bench. She's not even in the squad to play. And I think there's an issue. So then you got a team that's playing there. There's a 15s team. The French is a 15s team. Their players are going out there. They're not a mix and match of some sevens coming in and out. So it makes a difference.
The French were pretty good in this particular series. I mean, so you could arguably say they were a tad unlucky in the first
test. Yep.
But there was nothing unlucky about their victory in the second test. They were very good.
Yep.
And boy, they've got a really good set. They've got a really, really good set piece.
Set piece. Their forwards lay that platform.
And moving forward, they know that's probably one area that they've got the world champions on toast at the minute.
Their men's team could learn a few lessons, eh?
Absolutely. Very much so. Who coaches that women's team? Jeepers.
Yeah. Who's the coach? Come on, Paul, who's the coach of that women's team? It's the Northern Hemisphere. It's your area, mate.
Haven't got a clue.
I've no idea.
No idea.
Mr. Research himself.
Yeah, come on. Next week. In the notes.
World Rugby Team of the Year, Ireland. Only lost one game all season. You can understand that. Definitely.
Absolutely no.
I think it really, at the end of the day, you can't help but feel it came down to that match.
Absolutely. Listen, in a non-Rugby World Cup year, I'm quite happy to give them
yeah, because I want to be team of the year next year.
Quite happy. Unashamedly. Congratulations.
Oh dear. And Joe Smith got the coach of the year. It's quite often the player, team, and coach all come from the same crowd.
Absolutely. He's a New Zealander, so we kind of feel, an attachment.
I was going to say, he's a New Zealander.
We have that attachment.
He's a Blues coach.
Oh, dear.
We won't go there.
Won't go there.
No. And did somebody tell you, Dalton? Did somebody tell you? Just wondered.
So Angus Gardner was the referee of the year. I'm a bit surprised that Wayne Barnes hasn't picked it up yet, to be honest with you.
Talking to two Kiwis about Wayne Barnes picking up ref of the year.
Actually, to be fair, I thought Wayne was. I mean, to say that I thought the way he officiated the All Black Island game was fantastic.
Yeah, look,
I think he's one of these guys. Okay, he didn't endear us, but I think he was one of those situations back in 2007. He was a pretty inexperienced.
Absolutely, he should never have got the game.
He should never have got the game.
He should never have got the game. That was it. It's not the fact that it wasn't his fault.
No,
it was an inexperienced ref in a game that should have, shouldn't have been.
We're not going to hold that against him.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Over a decade later.
To be fair, he carried on reffing us where Bryce Lawrence is these days.
No, we've moved on.
Yeah. No, I always use Bryce Lawrence because Bryce Lawrence after the North Harbour match never reffed again, basically.
Wow.
And he basically they said it wasn't safe for him to go ref in South Africa.
God.
Has Wayne Barnes been to New Zealand?
Yes, I think he is.
There we go. Oh no, he's been there a few times. Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry, we just upset a few people out there, but
Yep. I'll be honest. I would think twice about going and seeing a Blue Bulls game, a Bulls game up in South Africa. To be honest with you.
Expand.
Because that's the crowd that sort of throw pints of beer at players and have come on the pitch and try to have fights with players and stuff.
Or tackle the referee.
Tackle the referee. Yeah, that's one ground I would think twice about going and watch games. That's not to me rugby is about.
Oh, to be fair, I think that's the random individual rather than a representation of the crowd. Yeah, seriously, I think so.
Okay, that can be your choice.
In saying that, I've just said that Bryce Lawrence was never safe for him to go back to South Africa. So.
There you go, exactly. Yeah. My point.
So I'm contradicting myself, that's all right.
IRP Try of the Year, Brody Retallick with his wonderful dummy.
Look, to me, it was between him and Scotland.
Yep.
Yeah, but for a forward to throw a dummy in and for a back to buy it, that's gold.
Yeah, but the question is, has the back bought it because he just wants to avoid tackling Brody?
But you got to make
there was some pretty lazy defending on the part of Reece Hodge. He basically was driven and he got totally fooled by the dummy, but his commitment to make the tackle was poor. But
he's a small guy, Reece Hodge.
But it kind of highlights. but if you think about it, if you think about it, just forget that it's Brody Retallick.
Yeah.
If you think Alan Wynne Jones had done that, or any other lock in world rugby,
yeah,
we'd still be going well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think on that basis,
That's why, and just a slight digression. That's why it's a bit of it's all of these World 15s that are picked and all that sort of stuff. It's always a person's opinion, but to not have Brodie Retallick in a World 15 squad is just redonkulous, as Raj would say.
World Breakthrough Player of the Year, Apelli Dante.
Yeah, good luck saying that. Before that was said, and obviously we're big Carl fans, right?
Yep.
But once his name's mentioned, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, Carl could have got it, but they both had brilliant breakout years.
They did, but I mean, and we mentioned about the fact that wingers are just on. But the dude is a freak with the speed, and he's got an amazing step on him as well.
Yeah.
He turned All Blacks inside out on occasion, and at Athletic Park, I was going to say, at the Cape Town.
He's an excitement machine. He's got a couple of little flaws in and around.
Oh, absolutely.
In and around his defence, and Wales exposed him on the on the weekend.
Absolutely.
But I suppose for Carl, just probably that he probably was on target to win this prize until the Ireland game. I've got to say.
No, I'm not so shy. This guy, I mean, his Super Rugby season was fantastic as well. So I've got no problems with this one. I think, but honourable mention to Carl.
But I mean, just that, with that Carl in that Ireland game, and I alluded to this when we talked about it previously. The fact is that he turned within a half. He turned his scrummaging around. Yeah. He got owned in a couple of scrums close to the try line, right? And we thought, here we go. The Tad's just sort of owning him and experiencing everything. By the end of that first half, that scrum, the All Black scrum was stable. You know
what? He can say something that many people have never get to do. I'll never get to go to Monte Carlo. He didn't even know where Monte Carlo was.
Come on, Steve. He's not from Northland.
I have been to Monte Carlo, but there we go. Never mind.
So you know where it is, then.
In the posh seats, yeah. I know where it is. Where we're now. Yeah, World Sevens Player of the Year, or Men's Player, Perry Baker. The guy's a freak, but he was injured, didn't play that much this year, so maybe. But anyway,
he is a match winner. Just a case of get the ball wide to that man.
But you must have seen the old video of him turn up on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. It's just like I can't remember who the opposition was, but he got it within deep inside the 22.
Yes.
And he started and stopped, and
bang.
Basically up the left hand flank, and then he's gone.
Well, we always were told that Carlin Isles is the quickest man playing rugby. So jeepers.
Well, yes, but this guy came after Colin Isles. This was after. So but Colin Isles was. Then he got someone quickest turned up. Hence, Colin Isles isn't the superstar he wasn't.
Yeah.
And obviously, you can't play him and Colin Isles in the same Sevens team.
Well, they're not. You got to have somebody to tackle.
Yes. So he just gets. So Colin Isles is now just a superstar. What a sub he is.
You swap him with Perry Baker, don't you?
Yeah.
Too easy.
Once Perry Baker's won the game. Women's Sevens Player of the Year, Michaela Blyde.
I mean,
I'm wrapped with that one because I've seen a lot of Michaela come on. Well, I saw her when she came onto the scene.
Yep.
And she's a very humble person. Probably lived in the shadow of the likes of Portia Woodman. So she's cutting out her own little career as well. And damn, she is seriously quick.
She's only 22.
Yeah.
Whoa! Ouch!
Got a lot of rugby.
A lot of rugby ahead of her. I mean, I'll be honest, man. It's just like I was surprised at Michaela Blyde winning the title, because I mean, at the end of the day, we've pushed with Portia Woodman so much, right? Yeah. And you see the Portia Woodman highlights reel, right? And obviously good Northland deal for you there. But no, I mean, like, geez, Michaela Blyde, once you sort of understand and you get find out the game that she has and what she's been doing, is like, yeah.
And once again, it's just really on the back of the growth of women's rugby in New Zealand. You know, we saw the Ignite. We have just to our international audience, we have a competition called the Ignite Sevens just held over the weekend. It was their first year, the inaugural comp, and it was really to find players who are up to international level. And some of the talent we saw running around. Well, there's probably another Michaela Blyde just around the corner. Good grief! And the men's, they looked like a kid that could run like Jonah Lomu, who was 100.
Oh,
8
120
kgs, and he could do the 100 metres in 11
11
seconds.
seconds.
And apparently, from what I believe, he can get faster.
But so this, just elaborate on the Signup 7. So it's sort of like a reality TV type scenario where they get all these players together, men's and women's teams, and they pick 3 to train with the All Black Sevens. This guy that Steve's just mentioned didn't make it to that. I don't think he wasn't one of the ones selected.
No.
So,
Wow.
and just sort of backing up on Michaela Blyde, it's just like, yeah, but do you really want to sort of like usurp your captain to an award? Is that a good? Is that a career limiting move? It's just like the pink slip on Monday morning. DCM.
It's a team award. IRP Special Merit Awards to DJ Forbes and Stephen Moore. Yep, both guys who have deserved that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, especially DJ, right? I mean, like when you look at Eric Rush was another for us, and he was Sally.
Yeah,
Those and Eric, 2 guys that for me, I mean, obviously Sevens would be going before them, but really they were sensational Sevens players, and then they retired, and then DJ's come along, and he might not be the most dynamic and playmaker type role, but the effort that he put in when he played those games, you saw it, and there's absolutely deserving of that.
And it's pretty impressive for someone who is a 7 specialist. I mean, that's all he. He never really played 15s, did he? So to be a household name in New Zealand as just a 7 specialist,
as a 7 specialist,
it's impressive.
Well, I actually know a wee bit about DJ because I was I was managing a White Matter 21s team that DJ was part of back in the day, and he also the crazy thing about
how many years ago was this?
Oh God, long time ago, long time ago now. But he was a kid who didn't play first 15 for Kelston Boys, couldn't make the first 15 team. So to any budding youngster out there,
you got to make the first 15.
No, you don't have to. You don't have
well,
to.
these days, yeah,
you don't have to make the first 15. Just while we were just talking about this, I mentioned this kid. It's Valence Crosby Tefare is the name of this boy. He's from the Waikato region. He's 182 centimetres, 109 kgs. And it just says here he can do a 40 metre sprint in 5.03 seconds. And his tackle force is 234 kgs. So I don't know what that means, but it sounds painful.
It sounds like freight train.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Stephen Moore. I mean, like we should touch on Stephen Moore. Obviously, wouldn't Aussie love to have him on the field at the moment?
Well, he deserves a medal for the number of losing speeches during the during the Blues. I used to seriously though. I used to feel for him. When you're doing a losing speech, what more can you say? The guys went out, gave it a good effort, but at the end of the day,
there's some learnings we can take away, and we'll study the video on Monday morning and see where we need to improve.
He certainly had down losing speeches down pat.
And the wound on the forehead.
But I always say, it might sound like we're taking
the
Mickey a wee bit, but he's probably ended up. How many tests did he end up playing?
100 plus.
100 plus tests. Well, he's played 100 plus more tests than I ever played. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
World Rugby Spirit of Rugby Award. Jamie and Armstrong. Not sure. I've no idea. To be honest, I'm not read up about that one.
On behalf of the Academy, full credit to Jamie.
Yeah, full credit.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
The World Rugby Award for Character goes to Dottie Weir.
Right.
Which is a good one.
Yeah. Well, we know the circumstances around that, so it's great to see Dottie being recognised.
Yep. And then finally, the Vernon Poe Award for Distinguished Service, Yoshihiro Morai, President of Japan Rugby Union. Well, you better deliver a very good Rugby World Cup then.
No pressure. Jinx, as the kids would say.
Just stack the blocker on them.
Is all I'll say for that one. Having heard of some of the fun and games that comes out of Japan on their administration side, an interesting award is all I'll say for that one. We were going to end the season reports, but we're well over. So we might save some of those for next week.
We've got at least some content for when there's no games on.
Exactly. Well, there's lots of games on, just not ones that you're interested in.
Yeah.
So what you might find going forwards is that Steve and I will basically talk about, as my computer's decided to
Go to sleep.
go to sleep. What you might find is that Steve and I will talk about European rugby, and Ashwin will be just like, there was rugby this weekend? Really? What's going on? So,
Europeans play rugby?
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So yes, so we'll do that. So thank you very much for joining us and putting up with all our technical issues. It's been an absolute blast doing it in the same room on the couches, and hopefully we'll do it again with some better tech.
Absolutely.
So it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.